1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted during their college years, and we recently learned of one allegation at the College of Charleston.
Conviction in a brutal case of campus sexual assault.
Hockey players are banned from campus. They're at the center of a sexual assault investigation.
A sexual assault reported on the Gonzaga campus, and the school says it happened in student housing.
Tonight, 2 Yale students have been expelled for sexual assault.
Tonight we have a report of another sexual assault near College Park.
Another sexual assault near the campus of UCLA has students on edge tonight. The attack today makes it 3 in just over a week.
New tonight at 6, the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department telling us they are trying to track down 2 men accused of sexually assaulting a woman near Grand Valley's campus.
3 sex assaults in 7 days in Oxford.
Columbia University's alleged rape problem. The Ivy League school had nearly 30 reports of sex assaults on campus over the past year.
This most recent attack coming right at the end of finals week for BC students and just a day before graduation.
News out of Charlestown tonight. Police are investigating a sex assault on the campus at Bunker Hill Community College.
The public outcry still soaring tonight over a 6-month sentence slapped on former Stanford University freshman Ralph Turner.
My sophomore year, 2016, I believe it was October 6th, I was sexually assaulted. I was invited to hang out with some RA friends who were friends at the time, and it was one of the previous RAs who assaulted me.
My definition of rape is essentially any type of sexual act that's non-consensual. I feel like it's really that simple. I think when you start to get into all of these different levels of definition, it starts to take away from what it really is. And I feel like primarily it's a lack of consent for any type of sexual act.
They scheduled my hearing for the 28th of October. I think it was like a week later they came back with a decision. They said that he was guilty of sexually assaulting me, but he was suspended and he wasn't expelled. So I appealed it, and I said that that wasn't right.
So I, as someone who works on the inside of this, working as a college administrator, do think we're doing a lot of the right things to help address sexual assault. I don't know how students feel about that. We do a climate survey to assess students' perceptions.
I'm sad to say that I have not seen our campus address sexual assault in the way that I'd like to. I have had people close to me, unfortunately, go through sexual assault here at Mount St. Mary College, and there hasn't been the justice that they need.
In September of 2017, we finally got the email that said that they had accepted our application for the grant, the U.S. Department of Justice, their Violence Against Women's department or office. They had noticed that we too needed some fixing up, on campus as far as advocacy and programming and things like that.
Here at Mount St. Mary, we have a CCRT, a coordinated community response team, where a bunch of different people from all different kind of roles on campus and off campus get together and we discuss these issues around sexual assault, how we're going to prevent violence on campus, and how we're going to respond when there is violence on campus.
I think we've made a lot of strides in the last few years. Now that doesn't mean that we can't do more and that we can't do better. I think areas that I'd like to see us grow in are still making sure we're educating both our students and our staff about the services and legalities of some of this.
I would like to see those steps continuing, more outreach, more people getting involved in programs like CCRT, more student voices, I think, is probably the most important piece of it.
We can improve addressing the issue of sexual assault by taking it more seriously. And as soon as we start taking it more seriously and believing people, the more justice we'll get for rape and sexual assault.
I've learned a lot about how little people know about this kind of stuff and how real it is.
I think so one of the things that we're talking about when we talk about gender stereotypes and how this correlates to violence in life, I think it goes back to rape culture and the way that we are socialized as a community to believe that, you know, men are supposed to be aggressive and women are supposed to be weak, and, you know, all those stereotypes that we think about when we say boys will be boys, and we sort of excuse all these violent behaviors over time as a culture.
At what point do we stop saying boys will be boys and we start saying, okay, let's make boys accountable for their actions?
I have a little girl, she's 16 months. And I mean, we know this, but the gender typing starts right away from the clothing on. And no matter how conscious you are, it's everywhere. Of the messages we're giving, of the compliments we give, of the characteristics we attribute to men versus women, and even of the responsibility we're putting on men and women for this.
We're always constantly trying to make sure that our women are not being too provocative, or not showing too much, or not being too open, or not being too friendly with other people.
Okay, then I'll go change.
Thank you.
Whereas for men, it's always, you know, go get them. Go on out there, Tiger, you know, you're a ladies' man. You know, we're going out to get the ladies tonight or whatever. It's a clear split between men and women.
Say this for round 3, because believe me, it's gonna be a round 3. All right, now, look strong. Come on, son. Close your mouth. There you go. Keep it tight. Work with it.
When and if girls act in a stance that assumes power, they're called bitches or nasty.
Such a nasty woman.
Instead of strong. If they were a man, they'd be powerful and they'd be strong and they'd be the president of the United States.
When the president of the United States can say, oh, you know, you just women, you can just
grab them by the pussy.
And they don't get in trouble for things like that. What do little boys think? You know, what do the little boys think when they see this man saying this about women?
If you go back to even like the 50s with advertisements, you'll see a lot of pictures of men who are powerful and they're kind of the center of it, and women are there as a prop almost. And that's showing us, okay, men are important, men are powerful, and women are there to be stared at. Women are less than men, women are objects. And when you're showing your audience that, you're showing your audience that if they're objects, then we can use them however we want.
It's everywhere, from, you know, James Bond movies to just 1980s John Hughes movies, which were all about teenagers.
Jake, I'm only a freshman. So? She's so blitz, you won't know the difference.
And yet all those messages, maybe we're being a little more careful about it, or trying to be more self-conscious, but it's still there. I think we're still doing a lot of excusing of behavior.
If we really want to, as a community, come together, we need to sort of counteract that and say, you know, men don't have to be aggressive and men don't always have to be perpetrators. I think it's just a matter of desensitizing people to that norm, that this is not the way, that it doesn't have to be this way.
In October of 2017, which was bringing in my 1-year anniversary of what happened, Alyssa Milano, she's an actress. She's a big human rights activist. She was also on Charmed. She had tweeted out the original #MeToo tweet. And that, from that moment on, it just became like an international phenomenon.
The Me Too movement, I feel like, is really the first of its kind, where it brought people together across all platforms for the purpose of raising awareness and also sharing their experiences.
I think that the Me Too movement does a pretty good job at supporting each other, supporting other victims, other survivors. Allies are, you know, supportive in it as well, of, you know, really creating an environment where people can start to talk about that trauma and start to work through it.
Some of the backlash to this is people who have been in very privileged positions kind of going, well, this is unfair, we're being accused. Well, the pendulum swung another way for a very, very long time, quite unfairly. And there's a lot of swinging that has to do in the other direction before we even get close to somewhere equal.
Victim blaming, I believe, it's society's way of pushing off the problem, of saying, well, I don't do that, so this wouldn't happen to me. Or my daughter doesn't look like that, or my son doesn't act like that, so that's not him, that's not her.
In general, as a society, we have a bias towards blaming the victim because it makes us feel like, well, if something happened to someone, they must have done something to deserve it. It can't just be that bad things happen.
Victim blaming prevents people from coming forward. It creates a less supportive environment and sometimes hostile environment. Victims and perpetrators don't look a certain way. They don't look the way that, maybe the media painted the image for us. It's most often someone we know.
I was in my building. I was with a group of RAs who are supposed to be the cream of the crop on college campuses. It was a group of friends who I thought I trusted. It was a Thursday night. I was in pajamas. It has had a huge impact on my life in every single aspect of it. I have lost friends, I have gained friends, I have learned things about myself and others. I've become much stronger of a person.
Instead of teaching girls to dress differently and act differently, we should teach boys not to rape.
I think one of the things that I really feel very strongly about is that we can all play an active role in minimizing and ultimately getting rid of gender violence. I think it's something that if we all just took a little bit of time to realize some of the messages that we're perpetuating, even in the things that we're liking on social media and the conversations that we're having, and being really mindful about the words that we're using and how that might affect somebody and how that might paint somebody, I think it will ultimately go a long way, and it's something that can catch on like wildfire if it's done the right way.
We do care, and there are a lot of people and services out there to help you on this campus. I think we do have to do a better job of making sure that the students are connecting to it, but that to start with counseling, this is a place, whether it be for someone that's been traumatized or for anything, it's confidential, it's safe.
So I think Mount St. Mary in particular is creating such a supportive environment for victims and survivors to come forward. There are plenty of resources out there for you, and if you're watching this and you are a victim or survivor, I really encourage you to come forward and we will be there for you.